Welcome to the Headspace and Tasting Podcast, where we talk manhood, tell stories, and discuss the stuff that matters to us one sip at a time.
Or we can pull your mic to you, either one.
Hello, Kevin.
What's going on, Matt?
It's another beautiful day here in the basement, recording episode, what'd you say, 72?
72.
Cool. And I'm trying not to talk about the weather, because we talked about this week that we don't talk about the weather.
Right.
We had a wonderful walk this morning. That was nice.
We did. The weather was nice.
Smoked me, man. I'm out of shape. I gotta get back. I gotta stay consistent.
In a couple weeks, we'll take the hill. Yell
Yeah.
Wolverines.
There you go. We have a special guest joining us today.
We do.
You want to introduce him?
Well, our special guest is Stephen Bauer. He is a financial advisor and former U.S. Air Force officer / major with extensive experience in leadership operations and strategic program management. He gets specific in here. Currently serving with First Command, he provides comprehensive investment, retirement, and risk management guidance to individuals, families, and business owners. Before transitioning to the financial services industry, Stephen served over a decade in the Air Force as a weapons systems officer on the B-52 and program manager for the Air Force Satellite Control Network. He held key leadership roles supporting large-scale operations and national defense initiatives, including managing high-value assets within the nuclear enterprise and leading training and mission planning efforts for hundreds of personnel. His career includes assignments with the 2nd Bomb Wing and Space and Missile Systems Center, where he directed complex programs, coordinated cross-functional teams, and oversaw multi-million-dollar budgets. Stephen earned a Bachelor of Science in Aviation Management and Air Traffic Control from St. Louis University, graduating with honors. He also completed advanced military and acquisition training through Air University and the Defense Acquisition University, as well as graduated in the top 5% of Squadron Officer School. He is originally from St. Charles County, living in O'Fallon, Wentzville, and now New Melle, and is currently an officer for the New Melle Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Stephen.
Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on. AI really thinks very highly of me here. So
It's quite the bio.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. Well, thanks for coming out. Really appreciate it. And thanks for tasting bourbon with us. We're going to get into this now. I got this bottle of bourbon at Schnucks, and there's always some really good deals there. This bottle is normally priced at $69. I got it on sale for $40, but they still had it locked up in the case, which I don't know why they did that.
I don't know why they picked the ones they picked to put in the case.
Yeah,
really.
There's no real rhyme or reason to it. And we're drinking Buzzard's Roost, Char No. 1. This is straight bourbon whiskey coming in at 105 proof. It's actually bottle 1,890. Just noticed that. So on the back here, it says they have an innovative approach to maturation, and it allows them to deliver unique flavor profiles into their whiskey. And we'll talk about what makes them unique, but this is actually distilled in Indiana, like every other bourbon we've been drinking pretty much.
Most of them.
MGP. But it is bottled by Buzzard's Roost Spirits in Bardstown, Kentucky. And what do you think, guys? Kevin, you got a little bit of history on the innovation that they're talking about? Is it really innovative, or is it just unique?
There are folks who say it is, and that's what they advertise as on their website.
Mm-hmm.
And there are two partners who met at a bourbon tasting, randomly met and decided to put this company together. And their idea was to be different by doing what they call proprietary barrels.
Mm-hmm.
So the wood they use is aged 18 months instead of the standard 6 for most barrels. They do a No. 1 char, which is a light char. There's like 4 to 5 levels of char you can put in a barrel.
Mm-hmm.
No. 1 is the lightest you can go. And the reason for No. 1, let me get to my note here, is that it'll gradually develop more oak and spice notes while preserving its fresh fruity core. And so it's designed to just enough to kind of bring out the syrup out of the and the juice out of the
okay.
barrel.
The sugars. Yeah.
Yes, and then get it to go in there. Yeah.
So, and you said did you talk about the aging of their wood before?
Yeah, 18
the barrels,
months.
18 months. Yeah. And that's that allows them sugars to do something, I'm sure.
There's some other stuff that goes with it, but nothing that I could really find.
I was slacking. I'm doing my wheel over here. Should have done it already.
Online. Oh, that's no big deal. It is made up of 59% corn, 36% rye, and 5% barley. So it is a high rye bourbon, bourbon whiskey.
And you can taste it too, I think.
Yep.
Let's see.
Stephen, you're our guest.
Yeah.
What did you smell when you first tried it?
Well, I was going to say, I actually have a wood mill, so I do a lot of milling of oak. So that was the very first thing that I smelled. And then as I tasted it, went more towards a vanilla. It was very, very sweet. And then a little bit slight smoky finish, but not too much. More so that vanilla hint.
Cool. Yeah, I pretty much agree. The oak was on the nose, got a little bit of that dark fruit that they mentioned in there. I was able to pick that up. The palate was definitely vanilla heavy.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a warm, spicy finish, but it didn't last a long time. Like, it wasn't overpowering. And there was, again, that real mild fruity essence that was in there.
Yeah.
Toward the end of it, a little bit of sweetness.
When I smelled it, I got cinnamon and honey, along with the oak. Tasting it, cherries, vanilla, and oak again. And then the fruit that I was tasting on the end reminded me of prunes a little bit. I can't remember the last time I ate prunes, but I do remember how they taste.
It's very similar to another bourbon. I'll figure it out while we're doing the show.
Yeah, it's familiar for sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of a honey gold color in the glass. Not too much leg on the legs.
It depends on the angle because I get an amber color depending on where I'm at.
Yeah, it's almost amber. It's a dark honey color.
So yeah. So Stephen, I read the bio out loud to you, but when did you decide that you wanted to do? Because you went through ROTC, obviously, right?
Yes, I did.
Because you went through SLU. What made you decide to get into ROTC to begin with?
Well, really it was, so I went to St. Dominic High School here in O'Fallon. And while I was there, actually, my librarian at the time, her husband was an Air Force Academy grad. And I got to talk with him a little bit. And he wanted me to go to the academy. I considered it, but it was one of those where I did still want to kind of stay local. I had my little brother and sister here. I had my entire family this way, so I said, you know what, if I can just go ahead and do that, for the time being, and go right to SLU, right downtown, and still be able to have that 4-year program to get in as an officer, that was going to be the best decision for me. That's kind of what really had me interested at first. I always knew that I wanted to serve in the military, just didn't know what capacity yet. I did consider enlisting in the very beginning. My entire family were all enlisted beforehand. Grandpa was World War II. He's still alive. Had his 101st birthday this February.
Awesome.
Nice.
So he was Army, World War II. Had an uncle in Vietnam. Had a couple other family members in different conflicts as well. And that was one of those where they said, hey, go to college, do that route. And I said, all right, fine, I'll do that. ROTC was great down at SLU. A lot of great opportunities. Met a lot of really, really good people. And that's kind of where that does come into with the GWAT. All of my cadre who were leading at that time had some sort of experience, either over in the desert, home station kind of a thing, because it was all within that 2001 up to when I graduated in 2015.
Yeah.
So really had a lot of stories, had a lot of, on the ground experience from people who were there. And that kind of drove my want. So when I graduated, it just kind of went from there.
Cool. Okay. So you were the first officer then in the family?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Traitor.
Yeah, exactly. That's what everybody else is saying.
I was the same way, and then I found out I had a cousin that was a lieutenant colonel in the Army when she retired, so I didn't feel so bad.
See, there you go.
There
Not
was
the
two
only
of
one.
Us. Right. Well, cool. So when you went through ROTC, and I'm just being brief here before we get into the fun stuff, but what did you like most about it?
I liked it. It was something different. You get a lot of people who go through and they play sports. You know, they get involved with a lot of clubs and so on and so forth. This kind of gave me a higher purpose going through college as well, because maybe it was, you know, just not for me. College was one of those. College was kind of the, you know, means to the end.
Yeah.
Essentially, my favorite part about graduating was commissioning. So it's like, yeah, I commissioned and I had a degree as well.
Were you able to get a scholarship for
Yes.
ROTC?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did. Sophomore year, I got picked up for one.
Nice,
And then
cool.
we go to field training between sophomore and junior year. So we'll go down to Maxwell and then Camp Shelby. We'll train down there, come back, and then you kind of lead the other cadets for the last 2 years, and then you commission on that final year.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Perfect.
So your degree with air, did you get actually certified or licensed as air traffic controller? Is that part of your degree program?
That would have been as long as I would have taken the test.
Okay.
You could get licensed. We actually had an air traffic control tower, all virtual.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing, same process, procedures. You studied the manuals. So
Good
really-
point. Did you ever think you were going to be an air traffic controller?
potentially, Air Force had airfield management and airfield ops position, and that could have very well been something I could have done.
Yeah.
Do you think you could have handled it in the civilian world?
I think so. I mean, training, you know, smaller airport to begin with, but those guys at O'Hare and everything, that's insane. I don't know how they do that.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So does the Air Force, when you get commissioned, do you know what you're going to be doing in the Air Force? Like in the Army, you get branched infantry, engineer, artillery, that kind of stuff. So is it the same process for you?
So really, we didn't know, essentially in between our junior and senior years when we would find out, sometimes a little bit closer and into our senior year. So you'd come back from field training, and that's when they basically said, hey, where do you kind of rack and stack? What do you want? Where do you want to go? And from there, then they would come out with a list pretty much towards the end of the year and say, hey, here's exactly your name, where you're going, what you're doing.
Okay.
And then they also, you know, give out the pilot slots and everything during that period as well.
Okay.
So when you graduated and got commissioned, 2015, you said, you got selected for the B-52s at
So
that
actually-
point, or?
So I was, that was when we were going through some of the downgrades, reduction of force kind of a thing.
Yep.
And so we actually had 300 more pilot slots than anticipated. And they cut back on pilot slots. They cut back on a couple other things. And so then I was put as needs of the Air Force. Well, one of the needs of the Air Force, I call it corporate Air Force, is contracting and acquisitions. So ended up doing that for a couple years.
Okay.
Went out to Peterson Air Force Base as my first assignment. And
Where's that at?
So Colorado Springs,
Okay.
hardship tour.
Yeah.
You know, snowboarding on the weekends and, you know, but that was one of those, I remember when I got into my office, I sat down, it was a little cubicle, but it backed up and out my window was Pikes Peak.
Nice.
And I just remember my Lieutenant Colonel Wood coming in there and he goes, hey, generals kill for this view, you know, so it's not really that bad of an assignment. So it was pretty good. Gained a lot of experience there, learned about how the Air Force works, not only on just the officership side by leading, you know, civilians as well, because that's a very, very different world.
Yeah.
But then also just seeing how things get purchased, get sustained, how the Air Force keeps everything the way that it is and upgrades things. So it was a very, very unique opportunity to see behind the door of how the Air Force works on a corporate scale.
So on a level of 1 to 10, how much fraud, waste, and abuse did you see
Oh my
compared to what
gosh.
we always see in the news?
It's valid. It's one of the, I mean, again, there are some very, very well-run programs and there are some very, very not so well-run programs. And, you know, it's just really what it comes down to is that fraud, waste, and abuse, you know, people reporting that, those getting, you know, brought to the attention of Congress and Congress putting a stamp on it saying, hey, we're stopping this. So,
Or they'll say, forget this ever. hit my
Exactly.
desk.
They just did that with the submarine yesterday, they announced.
Yep.
Was it the Boise? No. Is that right?
Well, like contractors working on it were stealing?
It's been in dry dock since 2018, 16, something like that. And it's
it was in
already
the billions of dollars that
already $8 billion over rehab, and the Secretary of the Navy just put a halt to it and said, nope, we're going to take that money and put it into new stuff
There you go.
and not waste our money. So,
Man.
yeah.
oh yeah.
So when did you find out that you were getting moved to the B-52s?
Actually, about the second year of program management, I was actually trying to get my private pilot's license, and I started flying at the Air Force Academy's, I guess the Aero Club there. So Peterson had one, but because it was on base, it was completely full.
You're in the gliders?
No, this was actually 172s they had out of their little
okay.
Cessnas.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
And they do have the gliders out of there, too. That's a really neat program.
Yeah.
I've flown a Cessna twice, actually. Took 2 flying lessons. The first time they take you up, they're like, all right, get the stick. You're flying. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, here you go.
I think I was 13 years old or something, 12. So you started getting your private license, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Started racking up some hours there, just pre-solo. And I had already put in, my application to go rated. And so I think 10 of us got picked up from active duty to be combat systems officers. So that means people who are already commissioned in a job in the Air Force. Then they said, yeah, come on over, be a combat systems officer.
Cool.
So kind of neat opportunity. I get to know each and every person who did get picked up for that year. And then we all trained at Pensacola. So about 2018 was when I was going through the training there, 2018, 2019. And at the end of my combat systems officer training in Pensacola, that's when I found out which aircraft I was going to.
Okay.
Okay.
So you could have been in any plane that has weapons?
Yes. So we had what you track out of there is either navigator, combat system. Well, I guess it's a combat systems officer overarching. Like that's the designation for it. But you'll have navigator, weapons officer, and then you'll have an electronic warfare officer.
Okay.
And in some platforms, that one, they call it a CISO now, will do all of those positions. And then like the B-52, up until recently, we had a designated electronic warfare officer, and then we had 2 weapons officers. So it really just depended what platform you went to. F-15, you kind of do it all. You're the guy in the back seat.
Right.
So
yeah, the guy that was rescued last week.
Yes.
He would have been a weapons systems officer. Right?
yes.
Okay.
Well, before we talk about your experiences, why don't you tell us a little bit about the B-52? What is it?
It is an old plane. It's a workhorse, though. It's one of those, if you point to any, major conflict within the past almost 100 years now, it's been involved in a very, very large capacity. And it's one of those that, even whenever as a squadron member, your boss would always say, hey, when a B-52 moves, the world knows, right? Whether it's people on FlightAware, whether it's people, if you go to an air show over in Europe, they don't have bombers over there.
No.
So whenever a bomber goes over there, you're like a rock star. You're handing out patches and signatures. It's really, really neat.
Yeah.
But also knowing that it's a nuclear power, right? So not only does it have the conventional powerhouse, it also has the nuclear side. And that is a very, very, very large deterrent when B-52s move into your area, knowing that could be a potential.
I mean, we saw with, last week with the tensions and the war in Iran, it was just the headline was B-52s take off from England. That's all it says. And it's like you get that feeling like, oh crap.
Exactly.
Something really bad's about to happen to somebody.
Yep.
Well, do some quick history. So the B-52 bomber was first a contract on paper through Boeing back in 1946, the year after World War II ended.
Yep.
But it wasn't until 1955 that the first one was production bomber was actually delivered. And in that 9 years, it went from propeller driven to straight wings to sloped wings to 4 jet engines to 8 jet engines on 4 platforms, height, flying height, range, power, payload. All these things kept getting changed and really throwing Boeing off track. And then the contract was almost done, and they're about to write it off. And then the head of Boeing reached out to the Secretary of the Air Force, and it wasn't LeMay at the time. I forget who it was. And he said, give us one more chance. And so the Boeing guys all got together in a hotel room on a Friday night and redrew everything that they needed to put together on this plane, because they had to develop the engine as well at the same time. And then between Friday and Sunday, they built a model, had the 30-page written program dialed in. They had diagrams and all that stuff put together. and were able to present all that on Monday, and the Air Force said, okay, let's do
Remember,
it.
this is pre-PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Pre-AI.
No AI.
Every drawing was hand-drawn, so.
Man,
It was
I
amazing.
wonder how many cigarettes were smoked over that weekend.
Right.
What kind of whiskey they were drinking.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if anybody's familiar, during World War II, you had the B-17 Flying Fortress. Then you had the B-29 Super Fortress. And then you had the B-52 Stratofortress. Do they even call it that?
They do. Yes.
Really? They still
yeah.
call it that? Okay. What kind of nicknames did you guys give it?
Well, I mean, if you've looked into history as well, so it's called affectionately the Buff, the big, ugly, fat fellow.
That's the pleasant way to say it.
That's the pleasant way to say it. And Old Smoky is another one. There's just,
I never heard
truck.
Old
I heard them call
Smoky.
it a bomb truck.
bomb truck. Yeah.
Okay.
Did they start out with enlisted, like the crew chiefs would fly on the planes? Have they ever done that?
Yes, they had, and we still do occasionally. It just depends if you go to an offsite. If you intend on landing somewhere that doesn't have kind of the support that you would need, you do have flying crew chiefs on that jet.
Okay.
What it used to have as well as the tail gunner.
Yeah.
So that was an enlisted position as well, and I think in the early to mid '90s, that's when that position was kind of taken out of there.
Yeah, one of the cool
crazy.
things, there is an Air Force guy on one of the Vietnam missions credited with shooting down a MiG-21 out of a tail gun.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing.
That is amazing.
So the last bomber, B-52, was built in 1962.
Yeah.
And then so we still have them in the fleet today, which is incredible in so many different levels. And did you, because we were talking about the nicknames, did you guys have nose art on your bombers or no?
We do. So we still have nose art on there. I know there was a proposition for a while to start taking a lot of those off of there, but they're still there. So you'll have the serial numbers on the side of there, and then right next to it is going to be a little bit of nose art.
Yeah, what was yours?
The one that it was I liked Old Soldier. That was a really good one for me. Then the other one that caused me a lot of problems, but near and dear to my heart, was War Pig and War Hog. That was the Balls 5-8 was the tail number.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
Well, what caused the heartache?
We had a rash of some incidents, right? So this was during COVID, and this is one of those. Funding was lower at that time. Everybody's trying to figure out schedules of, hey, who goes where? What does maintenance look like? What do flying hours look like? How do we keep these crews proficient while also keeping everybody separated? And I think wear and tear on the jet also started happening during that period, where there's certain parts on that jet that just there's no specific diagram for it. And so we've actually had guys in the back shop go through and go, okay, what is the failure point for this? Like Boeing knows the failure points for a lot of these materials. Some things we don't know. Oh. And that's one of those, this is one of those, they're like, well, this has never failed before. And then, but it just kept happening. But the funny thing is all of those jets have a very, very similar flight hour associated with them and the engines on the airframe. So when one jet starts having issues, you'll start to see another jet also have the issues. So it's one of those things where all of a sudden you're like, okay, now this is a trend. This is a problem. We have to try to fix it. So 5.8, there was a while, I think it was like 2020, 2021, somewhere in that area, that the brakes kept going out on it.
Dang.
So you'd be coming in on a Tuesday night after doing a mission, and you're just like, okay, I just want to go home, right? I want to debrief, go home, and all of a sudden you land, we deploy the chute, good shoot, and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, brakes, no, brakes, nope. All right, well, ride it out, and when it stopped, it stopped.
Holy moly.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know how much that plane weighs?
I think it was up to, when you're loaded full of fuel and everything else, it approaches just about 500,000 pounds.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I've got a couple pictures, too, where when we had to do you're full of fuel, you abort, and you're almost at the end of the runway. And again, these are the old brakes too. They're not like the newer brakes with all the different
drum
materials.
brakes on them still, right?
Yes, and there was a glowing ring.
Yeah.
So I'll have to show you that picture here in a little bit.
Dude. So hopefully did they upgrade those after that?
Yeah, and that's the cool thing, right? That's one of those. It's an old jet, and like you said, have they upgraded it? Yes, there's a lot of parts that have been upgraded. The really cool thing is when you sit in the actual jet itself, you'll look at components that are from the 60s. You'll look at components from the 70s. You'll look at components from the 80s. We have a GPS from the 90s in there. So it really, and it's all right next to each other.
Yeah.
So
I find that amazing.
It
How
is.
you could take still old technology and make it work with modern technology
Oh yeah,
and keep this thing moving.
100%. And I mean, if you look, it's piecemealed together, but it works.
It looks like the inside just keeps getting smaller and smaller, but you would think technology would get smaller and it would open up some space, but it's like they just keep cramming more stuff in there.
Exactly. And it is funny though, because the jet is designed with a certain weight, right? Mm-hmm. So it says, hey, I need this much weight in the tail, this much weight in the nose. And actually, when they replace the gunner position in the back, there's a concrete block in the back to offset the weight of that equipment.
It's a counterweight, like a forklift.
Right.
It's like the average weight of an enlisted airman.
And then the running joke for a lot of us too is because they've eliminated the electronic warfare position, they've integrated it with other stuff now. And we're like, oh yeah, just bring 100-pound sack up back. It was just as useful. But all kidding, EWs are very useful. But
I actually trained a bunch of electronic warfare guys who were getting pulled out of planes to go do electronic warfare inside Humvees.
Yes.
To jam IEDs and stuff. Those guys were super excited to be there.
Wow.
I actually had one guy I was training who got fired from the Air Force while he was there, like laid off. He was a missile guy, some dude I guess they launch missiles. Mm-hmm. And he just got a call one day and they're like, hey, Major so-and-so, we need you in the office. He came back and he's like, man, I just got laid off. I got to go, they give me 60 days to get my resume and do all this, and I got to find a job. Like, they just eliminated his position.
Oh,
it was the craziest thing I ever heard.
Got ripped.
Thank you for your 12 years. Goodbye.
Yeah. And I think he let him. He talked him into letting him go to Iraq and do his tour in Iraq, and then he could go. But I wanted to ask about your training though. So you get assigned to the B-52, and you did your weapon systems. What other training did you do before you actually got in the plane to start?
Yeah, so actually, so when you get picked up to be a combat systems officer, whether you go through ROTC and get picked up, or you get picked up active duty, you go through the same training. Uh-huh. You go to Pensacola, Florida, and there's a couple different units there. You're a tenant unit on a Navy base. So, when you look at the movie Top Gun, that's kind of where all their pilots are trained down there in Pensacola. Yeah. And so you're down there with, I think Navy rescue swimmers are down there as well. Mm-hmm. So it's a Navy base. Air Force gets to use the airfield as well. And so you're out there with the Blue Angels, the Navy trainers.
Shirtless volleyball games.
Oh, yeah. Weekend activities at the beach. But like I said, that was another hardship tour is, being stationed on the beach. But you'll go through and you'll fly the T-6 Texan is your first aircraft you'll go to. Think of it's almost like a little P-51 Mustang.
Oh, cool.
It's fast. It's nimble. It's a, tandem seat as well. So really, really cool aircraft to fly. That's what a lot of the pilots train on when they go through as well. And you learn how to navigate from the back. You learn, basic navigation, how to use charts, all that kind of stuff, airspeed, timing, and then you'll upgrade into a T1, which that's now changed as well. But the T1 is what I trained in, and you'll sit front seat and back seat. So you'll learn, okay, how do I navigate from the front? And then how do I do weapons and electronic warfare from the back? So that was a really neat aircraft as well. When you complete those two aircraft and you complete the syllabus with both of them, then that's when you graduate.
Okay.
And slightly before graduation is when you find out what aircraft you go to.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. Did you go to SEER school after that?
Yes.
Is that in Fort Lewis? Or not Fort Lewis, is it in Washington or Alaska?
Up in Spokane, Washington.
Spokane, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. How was that? You don't have to say too much. I know a lot of it's super secret.
And I'll still say it is probably the single best training I've ever had in my life.
That's exactly what I hear from everybody.
It's practical. Yeah. It's one of those things. You'll sit through briefings, you'll sit through trainings, whatever it may be. You're like, I know this, or I got to do it every year. SEER's one of those things you go through and you remember it all.
Yeah.
Testament is the F-15 pilot who just got shot down. The pilot and the navigator in the back, the Wizzo. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh yeah, I just relied on my SEER training. Well, he's a colonel. You know when he last went through that?
Yeah, about 20 years ago.
Exactly. So it sticks with you. It's one of those things that when you're on the ground, you're like, oh crap, I've got to use this. I got to remember this.
For those who don't know anything about what we're talking about, what is SEER school? What's it stand for?
Survive, evade, resist, and escape, or escape and evade. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those that teaches you that if you do get downed, whether in friendly or hostile territory, wherever it may be, how do you get out of there? What resources do you have? How do you find water, food. How do you keep yourself alive essentially in that situation?
And there's, if I remember right, there's different phases. You did like a mountain winter type phase. Did you do water, like out in the ocean?
You'll do water as well. And they've kind of combined that up at the SEER school. So what it used to be, you had to do your water down in Pensacola, and they'd actually put you out in the Gulf.
Yeah.
And they had a couple incidents where they're like, yeah, this probably isn't that safe. So now it's a little bit more controlled. It's all up at Spokane.
Okay, cool.
One of the anybody who wants to know exactly what SEER is like, one of the best movies I know of is the one that starred Gene Hackman from the 80s, Bat 21, in Vietnam, where he's getting hunted by the North Vietnamese and he's trying to get rescued. That great depiction.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how the Air Force does their resist portion of it, but I know the Army is brutal. But so how was that part of it? They slap you around a little bit?
Yeah, happy slappy camp kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But, again, still really, really good training. And it's one of those for people if you've never been hit, anything else, like you're going to get hit. And you're going to understand what it's like.
Yeah, and that's when you get a different idea about when people say we torture people. We're like, bro, we do this to our own people. What are you talking about? We do this in training. It's not torturing. So anyway, so you finished that up, and then you found out you're going to the B-52s. Were you excited? Were you bummed? Were you hoping for like cool fast mover jets, or what were you thinking?
Honestly, 15 was the last on my list.
Really?
Don't know why. It's just one of those where I was like, anything that drops weapons, I'm okay with.
Yeah,
so,
okay. But
just not the 15.
AC-130 gunship is what I would want.
I had, and that was also, growing up watching since, the towers went down in 2001. I was in third grade, right? So since then, we were in conflict.
Yeah.
And that was one of those, I'm like, what is the quickest and easiest way to get in, get what I need to do to go help out? And you heard about Air Force Special Operations doing everything, right? They were out there with the U-28s. They were out there with the C-130s, the MCU, so that was, I'm like, I wanted to get into the Spec Ops community. And, looking back, I was like, well, actually the B-52 worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
But it was one of those where towards when we were about to find out which aircraft we had, it was called getting buffed. So there were certain classes that at certain times the B-52 had their schoolhouse. So you kind of knew if you fell within this window, you're probably going to get a lot of B-52 slots.
Yeah.
And I remember my SRO came through and he's like, hey, where are you okay on this list? And it was a list of all the aircraft. He goes, give me an above and a below, right? Here's where you racked and stacked them. Where are you okay? And I put my hand on the paper and he goes, good. And I'm like, all right, that works. And then the next day when we had our graduation, we went through and pretty much everybody got close to what they wanted or what they wanted. So
that's good.
It was really good.
Yeah, the Army does it like, where do you want to go? I put Alaska and Hawaii, and they're like, well, we can get you close. We'll send you to Washington. And then Korea.
Close enough.
Usually they just send you the opposite way. But so the B-52, and then what is there specific aircraft training that you go through before you get qualified to actually go do your job? Or they're just like, hey, sit down, here we go?
It's another schoolhouse, right? So you'll show up to Barksdale. You'll get in process with the pilots, the electronic warfare officers. You'll have your class that you're associated with, and then you'll break up for the the next couple months into your own specific training. It's all academics. You always start out in the books. You always start out with, hey, here's your -1, which is your your list of how does this aircraft work, how do the systems work, and by the end of that, they're like, hey, be experts in it. So you go through, you get to be an expert on your aircraft, you get to be an expert on the weapons or on the electronic warfare side. From there, they bring you out to the flight line. Then you train for, hey, how do I actually fly in this thing?
Yeah.
And that's fun. You sit down and kind of a tradition is you get a $2 bill after your first ride. So they call it your dollar ride usually.
Okay.
And this one, B-52, which is a $2 bill. You write all your names on it. So you have your instructor, your crew on that. It was your first flight. So I've got that framed and everything else. But just a really neat tradition and a really, really cool experience.
Do you know why it's a $2 bill?
B-52.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought it was because strip clubs only take $2 bills.
Only.
Well, $2 and above. I don't know. I've never been to a strip club. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
I have one last number question before we get to the global war on terror.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that your tail number was what, balls 58?
Yes.
Okay, so over the course of production, there were 742 total that were built. Last one built in 1962. There was never more than 100 bombers in service at any given time. As of this year or last year, I think there's 76 in service now, split between active duty and reserves. Are the tail numbers based on the production number, or is that just a random number that was assigned?
I'm pretty sure it's production. I have to check on that for sure. But it's it's all serialized like everything else. I mean, you'll have like 60, 61, 62. So they're out there. It just depends which ones have been scrapped, which ones have been brought back.
Well, I just find that amazing. Out of 742, you're number 58, which means you're on the early production side. And I'm just curious what the latest number is that's in existence right now. What was the latest one that you think highest that you came across?
There's
Do you remember?
So 60 and 61 are all the tail numbers that we fly. I'm not sure of the last one in that series. But again, we're also bringing back B-52s from the boneyard as well. So that's one of those
Are we really?
Well, when we lost one, I think it was I gotta look back on the year, but the one of them that burned up in Guam, they had to replace that one. So we had a tail number, and the nose art and everything was called Wise Guy, and they got it out of the boneyard, flew it to Tinker, got upgraded so that it could actually get what it needed to have in Tinker, and then they flew it back to Barksdale to finish getting retrofitted with everything on it to then also be in the line number.
How long of a process is that? Like if they needed to rush, there's no rushing with aircraft, I would imagine. No. You got to make sure the welds are correct.
Everything.
Do you ever hear them things make weird noises when you're taking off? You're like, oh boy.
Always.
This is not good.
I mean, you'll hear the struts and everything popping. You'll hear, as the pressures change, you'll hear the rivets. We'll always laugh with the, whenever you're rolling down the runway, you're just like, well, we eject downwards.
Oh,
so we're like, well, if anything happens,
yeah,
we're in it. We're riding this thing in. So,
doggone.
Yeah.
I remember being on Chinook helicopters, and they said if the hydraulics ain't leaking, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
That was, and I kid you not, we had one of the flights were supposed to go to Altus Air Force Base, and we did. We got there, but when we were on the ground, they're like, hey, there's a real big hydro leak out here. We're like, okay, we'll go check it out. And so I dropped down and I went out to the crew chief. I'm like, hey, what do you think? And he had his watch and he was looking at it. I'm like, well, why are you looking at your watch? He's like, if it's under 27 drips a minute, we're good. And I'm like, that's a number? Like you guys have, okay, but if it's 28, we can't go, right?
That's great.
So
what about 27 and a half?
Yeah, does it count?
Oh man.
So what do you think? Can you recall what were probably your most terrifying or some of your greatest emergencies you may have had while doing flight?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, for me, I never had to see any combat in it, which was, that's fine. I did my time. I helped train people. I kept people ready because obviously now they're all over there in Iran. So I'm like, don't screw anything up. I trained you, and there's a lot of other people over there who've trained people as well. Yeah. But it's one of those where we've had a lot of flights over the Pacific. And I will say that's probably one of the most terrifying, right? Because you're up, you're far away from anybody out there. And it's just you. You're going over to Guam, or maybe you're going to Diego Garcia or anything like that. There's typhoons, there's massive waves, there's cold water, and you get an engine fire. And you're like, okay, well, I got 7 more. We're good, right? Well, they're in pods. They're in 2. Yeah, so if you shut one down, then the one next to it is probably going to have some issues. So that's one of those things. I would say the most terrifying one that we've had for me personally was, engine fire, and then we had to shut down another engine next to it. And we were over the Pacific. And that's where I'm like, yeah, this is not great. We've had another one where...
That's when you're just focused on your job at that point.
Exactly. It's like we just got to get there, yeah. My buddy Steve was with me. He was flying. And we went out to Alaska. So we flew from Guam to Alaska. Did an exercise out there. B-52 obviously got shot down right away. And so we're like, okay, cool, great. We're out there, got shot down, 10 hours back to Guam. And so we're flying back, and we get a full cold situation, so no heat.
Oh.
We tried to turn on the heat, but every time we'd turn on heat, we'd lose cabin pressure, and it wouldn't come back on.
Oh, boy.
And so it's like, okay, well, do we have, hypoxia, or do we just get cold?
Right.
And so the only heat that was working was coming up from, like, the pilot station. So you had to rotate out. Your wizard would be over there warming up his hands for a minute, then the next guy'd come up and warm himself up. Dang. And then, I mean, it was cold.
Yeah, because can you talk about altitude? Like what?
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, that's secret.
I mean, service ceiling is, around 45, 50,000 feet for that.
Yeah.
And, you have to have...
It's a little chilly up there.
Yeah. You got to have a little protective gear. And, it's terrible, too, because when you're starting that jet in the Louisiana heat, you are baking inside of that thing.
Yeah.
Right? When you're up at altitude, it's cold. So you almost had to have a change of shirt. So whenever you could take your drenched shirt off, put a dry one on, that way you weren't sitting there freezing at altitude.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yep. So the human factors have a lot to play in that jet still too.
Yeah. You ever see anything strange you couldn't explain while you're up there?
A couple times, just one of those where we had a 135 that was telling us, again, we were going out ironically over Roswell.
Oh.
And, I told my dad this. I'm like, you'll never believe it. But a little hazy out and everything else. And the KC-135 is, hey, Skull Flight, how you doing today? I'm like, Skull Flight, it's just us. And he's like, no, there's two of you.
Mm.
And so we got scared. We're like, oh my gosh, are we right next to an airliner? Like, what's going on? And so I'm trying to look, and pilots are trying to look and everything. There's nobody. We go through clouds and we close the distance on the 135. He goes, where'd your wingman go?
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, okay. And we're like, okay, was it similar in size? What did it look like? Because you can't mistake two B-52s.
For real. Yeah.
And it was funny because the boom operator at the time was going through upgrade training. And so his supervisor got on the radio and he goes, no, guys, we saw it too. He goes, so they saw it and we had no idea. But
wow.
we weren't really spooked or anything. It was just one of those things where you get the hair on the back of your neck because you're like, okay, it's a lot of airspace out there until it isn't. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure you're not hitting anybody else.
For real?
Yeah.
Man.
When you were flying, like doing missions, were you always solo or did you ever have a flight of bombers with you?
Sometimes you'll have a flight. I mean, it's one of those, mission requirements, right? You'll fly in a 2-ship, 3-ship, occasionally 4-ship. Whenever you do your nuclear exercises, however many of you are in the exercise, you'll do a fly off with all those jets. So, I mean, there were times that we did it with like 10 to 20 jets.
Dang.
Okay. I was just curious because, that's how people think of bombers. They think of the old World War II stuff. But our bombers
so
aren't like
now.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it took several hundred bombers to get a couple bombs on target. Now it takes one B-52 to put a bomb through a window. Right, so it's,
So you mentioned the nuclear stuff. Is it anything like you see in the movies? Do you have is there some kind of alarm that goes off? Are you whipping out some, laminated code book and having to use markers to write the codes down and verify? Are you breaking little crackers open? I mean, what happens?
Do the planes stay loaded with the nuke and you're like in bed and then they call you like, hey, you got to go now, and your plane's already warmed up, ready to go? Like, how does the whole thing work?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where, and I will say, there's a lot you can and can't say.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The biggest thing is if you ever watch the movie Crimson Tide, with the submarine commander, Denzel Washington's on that one, that is the most accurate thing I've ever seen of how that process actually works. But yeah, really, it comes down to, if you look at some of the videos online, like the Cold War responses. So when you're pulling nuclear alert, you got the crews on standby, jets are on the ramp, and this is basically one of those since the 80s, like, hey, if the president, Congress, everybody else heard that there were nukes incoming, load the B-52s, get everybody on and get ready to go. And that's when you'll see those videos of the guys running out of the alert shack, going to their planes, starting the engines, just going as quickly as they can. So really, I mean, it just comes down to the preparedness. We do a lot of, exercises, couple a year, and you're actually dealing with the real thing sometimes. So,
wow.
Is there anything like the old Strategic Air Command, like Operation Chrome Dome and some others, where you always had bombers in the air 24 hours a day, where they were flying just outside the borders of the Soviet Union, so if they got the call, they're already there and they can just go in and launch, or they don't do that anymore?
So they don't do that anymore. That was a special time back then, right? You had a B-52 pretty much in each hemisphere, and anywhere around the world being able to strike if they needed to. And that was more of a deterrence thing at that point.
Okay.
So when you're carrying a nuclear bomb is it the only one you're carrying? Are you carrying other bombs too along with it, or it's just like you have the bomb and that's it?
So it's funny you say the bomb, right? And that's
I mean, I would imagine it's probably loaded full of nukes.
and that's the thing.
Like, if you're going to drop one nuke, you might as well drop all of them.
Well, we did an air show over in England, and I'll never forget. We were given tours of the bomb bay and everything, and this one guy comes up and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you carry a nuke in here." Like, I know we carry 8 in here.
Yeah.
And I said we carry 12 on the wings, and he's just like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So how many, like, what is the payload with other munitions, like JDAMs or what other stuff do you carry on there?
I mean, we carry a little bit of everything, right? So
Do they still use dumb bombs at all?
yeah, we still practice
Carpet
those.
bombing? Yeah.
100%. We'll load them in there, the Mark 82s, and there's 500 pounders, and you go out there and drop a whole bay full of them. Cool. So I think it's 27 of them internally.
Do you feel any change in the avionics, like the planes gets lighter and you're like, holy crap, you got to fly against that?
Yes. So the pilots, and when you'll see it too, like if you do a full run, which we hardly ever do, right? Because training purposes, you want to go through, you want to drop a couple of them, try again, kind of a thing. So it's rare that you do just a full bomb bay, like unload. But when you do, you can see the trim wheel up front and it's just starts spinning. You can feel it go up a little bit.
Wow.
So it's pretty neat.
Dang. That's crazy, man. Do you, can you see the bombs leaving the plane from where you're sitting?
No, so there's a really, really good book. It's called Flying from the Black Hole. And it's a B-52 weapons officer in Vietnam. And he was just like, no, I watched the whole war from an enclosed room.
Yeah.
Right? So your systems will tell you that the bombs have left the jet. You have no idea.
Okay.
The pilots, whenever you drop, the pilot can see flashes, especially if it's at night.
Sure.
But you down there, unless you're targeting pods on, you're not going to see it.
You're just in your hole.
You're just in there. Yeah.
A little troll in your hole.
Exactly.
Cool.
One last mechanical question. So I know that I've read that the landing gear, because you talked about the old-fashioned brakes and all that, the landing gear, when they come down, they don't face forward. They're like, they can be, at 20-degree angles or something when they come down to handle crosswinds. What's that experience like? It looks like they land sideways.
Exactly. So if you look at a lot of the like airlines, right? Whenever they have to crab into the wind, they're turned the entire way into the direction, and at the very last second, they'll snap it to go straight onto the runway. B-52 doesn't have the maneuverability that does, and so we have a system that with our crosswind crab, we can then turn a dial, and it'll spin our landing gear. So the landing gear may be lined up with the runway, and you're facing, to the left or the right, like 10 degrees. So the pilots are looking like this, and they're looking straight to try to land on the runway then. So it's unique. We're the only aircraft that has that.
Wow.
Yeah.
None of the big Soviet, old Russian planes have that kind of thing either?
Nope.
Oh, that's amazing.
They just die for for their comrades.
Exactly.
How fast can a B-52 get up to cruising altitude?
Very quickly. It actually used to have one of the climbing records way back in the day. So, and again, you're talking fuel, you're talking munitions, everything else. If it's a light aircraft, it can climb very quickly.
What about loaded?
Loaded takes a minute. Yeah. That's one of those whenever you see the videos of them taking off and all the black smoke and everything, and then they're just slowly rising up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, clearly you were involved in a global war on terror, right?
To a certain extent, yes.
Yeah. So what did you do? I mean, what was your experience during the global war on terror?
So really for mine, it was my first experience, I mean, obviously 2015, right? So I worked for the Satellite Control Network. And a lot of that we were doing upgrades for our systems for all the tracking stations, for the satellites and everything. And you got to remember, for GWAT, that was a huge upgrade going on, was our intelligence, right? Yeah. So how do we have the systems to help us sustain that? How do we talk to people across the globe? How do we get communications? And so that was a really, really neat aspect of the job, and learning how that all worked, how everything bounced off between the satellites, the ground stations. At that point, you were packing out your comm equipment that your average Joe could then use a satellite to then talk to the Pentagon, right? So that was a really, really neat experience. I had a lot of support in doing that, doing the hardware and software upgrades for those stations. The B-52, I was in it right after, because I know there were a couple strikes in Syria that we did for a while. I think that was like 2016, 17, somewhere in that range. And So I just missed that. We had, obviously Afghanistan, we had a couple that we did towards the end and towards the withdrawal. But really after that, it was a lull, right? So one of the good buddies, and we always say, it can happen to anybody. Anybody can be that guy who was in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a guy a couple classes below me at CISO training, and he was the first guy to get a Distinguished Flying Cross in the U-28 because he was in the stack that day for the Afghanistan withdrawal. So for all the C-17s and everybody else out there, he was the one coordinating that airspace.
Wow.
So really for me, it was more so of the support side. We were there in case we needed to do anything. We were training up for it. But as far as active participation, there wasn't a ton.
Yeah.
But that was also a huge aspect of it as well, as, you're talking about people who saw the towers in 2001, finishing up high school, getting trained up and everything else. But by the time you were out there, for some people who saw that, you're towards the end of that war.
Mm.
And really now it was just kind of bridging the gap between the GWAT era and then now Iran.
And the next one.
Yes.
Right? So when you guys you were in Louisiana,
Yes.
and if you got the call, you could fly from Louisiana to like Europe.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of those. We always talk about, and if you look now, the biggest thing that we need is tanker support, right? And those tanker bridges, like right now, Scott Air Force Base is out there with their units and forward deployed with all the enemy. You saw, I knew the pilot and co-pilot for that one, the 135 that ended up crashing over in Iraq.
Mm.
There's a huge tanker presence. But as you saw from our Secretary of Defense as well, he said we flew these amount of missions all over 30-something hours each.
Yeah.
And what we called that a conus to conus. So you would take off, and those were lovely missions. You would take off out of Barksdale. You'd take 2 tankers or so. You'd get across the Atlantic. You'd get over towards Iran, out in that area. You'd be out there for a couple hours for mission support, and you fly all the way back.
Oh, dude.
And so that's one of those where it was like, you're out there for 30-something hours, and by the time you get back, I mean, a whole day's passed.
That is so crazy.
Is that because we just have no forward facilities, or that's just the best way for our bombers to be back here in the States versus at some forward location?
That gets into a nuclear thing, right? How many countries would like to have a allied U.S. nuclear bomber on their soil?
Mm-hmm.
So really it comes down to don't land here. I don't want you here.
Gotcha.
Right? So
do we keep B-52s in England? Is there a unit in England full-time?
not permanent station.
They just stay there temporarily? Okay.
So, and that's, I guess, when you talk GWAT as well, that was we had switched over from deployments, right? So there were a lot of people where it was like, hey, I was deployed, I was here. We did a lot of bomber task force missions. So essentially what that was a shorter stay. So it could be, 1 month up to 6 months, could be even longer. I know COVID, there were a couple people out there for, I think, 9, 10, 11 months, somewhere in that area. Mm-hmm. But really it's more so that the bombers were more seen as a temporary presence. It was a negotiating tool in a sense. Mm-hmm. And so you didn't see a lot of permanent presence out there because that costs, right? Yeah. And if you're trying to keep costs down, if you're trying to, pull back and withdraw forces kind of a thing, you want everybody kind of home stationed. So those bomber task force missions were to show that, hey, we can still get out there. We can get out there very quickly. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to be a permanent presence.
Okay.
So on a 30-hour mission, how do you eat and sleep? I mean, how do you prepare for that? I mean, what do you do? What's the condition?
So, I always say it's kind of like Aladdin, right? Infinite cosmic power, itty bitty living space. And it was one of those, you were trapped in the lamp, man. There's not a lot of room to move around. And when you talk that you have all your survival gear on board, you have all of your extra gear, your 3-day bags, whatever it may be, there's not a lot of room. And you're going to have extra guys and gals on board to augment you, to augment the pilots. That way, if you're flying for 30 hours, you'll have somebody there to step in and be like, hey, tag, you're it, kind of a thing. And, you pack a lunchbox, you pack a bunch of water on there. Fun fact about the B-52, there's no toilet. You have a jerry can in the back.
Nice.
Yeah. So 30-something hours, it was one of those, if you get to raise your hand and say, hey, I never pooped on the jet, you were the winner.
At least the C-17 has a toilet.
Yeah. It's right in front of everybody watching you.
Well, we watched AMC with the 46, their new Pegasus, the refueler. Uh-huh. they had this huge Air Force article on it. It's like, oh my gosh, the Pegasus did a 24-hour mission. It was, I'm like, they have a toilet. They've got a coffee pot. You can walk around in there. Yeah, what a hard life.
B-52 has an oven on it, though, doesn't it? Did I see that?
Kind of.
It's like a little toaster.
It's got a box that gets hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's you turn it on if it works. And if it works, it's either on or off.
Okay.
So there's no, I want to bake something at 350 for 25 minutes. Yeah, it's...
I also heard something about turkey sandwich. Like turkey sandwiches was the only thing you guys really ate because it blocks you up and you don't have to poop so often. Is that true?
I mean, you got creative. We had a guy on board who he would bake cookies. He would make a brisket the night before, and so you're always like, you want that guy on your check, And it was, we always laugh. So we acronym for everything, right? PSMBs, or was it pork stuffed milk buns? Is what he made one time. They had another full cold situation, but the oven worked. So we laughed. We're like, we didn't even eat half the pork stuffed milk buns. We just put them in the oven, and we put them in our jacket to warm up.
Like hand warmers. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So the turkey sandwich thing is
what we called it vitamin I. You'll have Imodium on board. That's what really, if you had to take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie Dr. Strangelove?
Absolutely. That was a required watch.
At what point was it required?
As you were going through the FTU is a formal training unit. So when you were down, getting acclimated to the B-52 before you went to your first squadron, it was like, you will watch Dr. Strangelove. So
I think that's a great movie.
Fantastic. There's no fighting in the war room.
Right.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me of last week, with Trump. I was like, whoa, this is like Dr. Strangelove. He's just like, I'm going to destroy an entire civilization.
That's funny.
I was like, this is actually coming to reality.
That's why I was like, oh my gosh, like, you got to tread lightly with that kind of verbiage, because it's one of those, like, there are very few countries in this world that have the ability to do that.
We can do. Yeah.
And that's, they even said, whenever we do our nuclear generations, you'll go up there and as the pilot in command or the weapons officer, you'll sign for 20 nuclear weapons. It's like, hey, congratulations, you're the 6th most powerful country in the world.
Yeah.
You. So
holy moly,
just to wield the power, right?
Yeah.
And that's just to think about it.
Did you ever practice security breaches or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, like whenever you do your exercises, I mean, probably the same on the Army side too. It's like, hey, what if, right? So there was a lot of what if scenarios.
Yeah, did you see that today over there at one of the Air Force bases over there in Ireland? Just today, someone had gotten through security, jumped up on top of a C-130 that was parked on the runway, and started pounding a hammer onto the wings.
What?
The top wing. And they're actually, you could tell it's a couple of Air Force guys standing there filming it, and they're kind of laughing. Oh, man, I think he just put like 8 dents in our wing, kind of deal. And then they arrested him.
Just shoot him.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know what goes on anymore. When it comes to military and the security, we should be doing those things, but I don't know how they do it in Ireland.
Yeah, that's weird. So that was a Royal Air Force base, I'm guessing? It wasn't American, was it?
Well, I think it was. No, I think it's a contracted base that we use. I forget what the name was.
Dude, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, and it's one of those. It was a C-130 that just flew out of Kansas and landed there. And it was just there temporarily. It was moving on.
Wonderful.
Well, that comes down to drones too. That's another one of those that we've had a lot of experience with, and the Russian-Ukraine war, and you sit there and you're thinking, okay, cool, yeah, like B-52s, C-130s, these planes that are sitting there on the ramp, like, what's protecting them?
Yeah. Wow.
Right? And that's a scary thought, right?
But what's protecting them in the air?
That's the thing.
If you have a drone swarm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess like bird strikes are an issue with planes like that. So imagine a drones just fly right into your engine, just take you out. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we talk about this, the action that the B-52s go on today, many solo flights, they're strategic, they're all over the place. Typically, if a B-52 goes down, it's because of a mechanical failure or something like that. It's not like a wartime deal.
Yeah.
I did do a quick look at that. The last time that there was a big push with B-52s was Operation Linebacker 2 back in 1972.
Mm-hmm.
And over that, I wrote it down. It was a 10-day period. And in 10 days, 15 B-52s were shot down, 10 damaged.
Whoa.
And that was 1972. We haven't done anything since then like that, but it just goes to show you, even with the power that we have today, that these kinds of things can still happen.
So do you guys fly with escort? Do you have like fighter escorts?
Sometimes
Or you
not.
just try to fly high enough to where normal planes can't get to you?
Well, I mean,
with
modern technology, they can get you,
yeah,
right? And that's
like
one of the
MiG
things.
can fly 50,000 feet for sure.
Well, I mean, Russia back in the Cold War had MiGs that were designed specifically to shoot down
Yeah.
B-52s.
I think there's a picture of a guy he's like almost out of the atmosphere in a MiG.
Oh yeah,
Like they can go that high.
and it's one of those that you talk about radar signatures, right? Like the B-52, we always call it like, oh, it's a flying football field, right? Like you're going to know when somebody's there.
There's zero stealth.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously the B-2, so on and so forth. So that's one of those things that, how do you keep the competitive edge in a jet like that? Well, you're going to need support. And that's, sometimes we'll fly escorted, sometimes we won't. We did missions in the Pacific where obviously we weren't escorted, and we would get intercepted by the Chinese, we'd get intercepted by the Russians, and they just kind of, you're out there, no weapons, no nothing, and they're just right on the long side of you, or right underneath, and they go underneath to check you for weapons, and, just standard protocol, same thing we do with their jets when they come over to Alaska.
Yeah.
And then, over in Europe, when I flew a couple of those over there, we did have escort. We had NATO escort. We had Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. They had everybody kind of flying with us. So, it just depends on the mission set and where you're at.
Yeah, I guess when the Chinese jets or Russians, you got to be real careful with your hands. Like, don't make any crazy movements or don't offend them. Don't piss anybody off.
And I mean, for a while there, if you remember when tensions were pretty high,
Yeah.
there were a couple close calls.
I'm sure.
So, and that's one of those, you just don't want to be a part of that. You want to fly straight. Hey,
Yeah.
we're allowed to be here. So,
Do you ever have thoughts of wanting to stay in?
I did. Yeah, it was it was one of those things where COVID hit really hard for a lot of people, and so that changed a lot of things. Personally, professionally. Then there was also just kind of the time in between where we didn't have the funding for a lot of things. A lot of the jets were breaking, and that was one of those. I'm like, oh my gosh, and just family situation with me. Like, hey, do I stay in? Do I get out? And then as soon as I came out here, the outside world, essentially, you do have thoughts where it's like, oh my gosh, I still have a lot to give. I want to give back. And a good compromise for me was what I do now, right? But I still get all the time, it's like, hey, you can go back. They have, they up the age for pilots to go back through. And I'm like, I'm too comfortable where I'm at right now. But
Yeah.
Well, did you have something you wanted to say?
Well, I was just talk about the transition more, but I think that's where you're going. So go ahead.
Yeah. So you're out now. You became a financial advisor.
yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? What do you do?
Yeah, so really unique opportunity for me, and bringing back Pensacola. That's where I originally signed up with the company I'm with now as a client, and so I've been a client for 10 years, and it was super helpful. Basically, when it comes down to your financial plan, life insurance, some of the things you're not told when you're 20 something years old in the military.
Yeah, even if somebody does tell you, you're like,
Yeah, whatever. That's
leave me
20 years
alone,
away.
old man.
Well, it's like, you think about it. Look at all the benefits you have in the military, right? You have, $600,000 of, SGLI. That's huge. When you're 20 something years old, you have a $600,000 benefit.
I think it was 250,000 for me.
Yeah, it was.
They've upped it.
Well, you guys are a lot more less expendable than I was.
Well, I think everybody's 600 now.
It's everybody.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, good.
So, I mean, you have a lot of benefits like that, are great, but when you get out, they're gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
And now you're 40 something years old and you're trying to get life insurance or you're trying to get things set up. And so it's one of those things, it was a very, very good thing I did early on. And, they even said, it's like, hey, if you go to a combat aircraft, you may not even be insurable. Hey, when you're out of a combat aircraft, when you get your VA rating, you may not be insurable. So there's certain things and certain, steps to take to have that financial security later in life. And so I think that was a really good compromise for the mission, right? It's like, if I get out from active duty, how do I continue helping that community? How do I continue helping those guys, putting the ladder back down behind me saying, hey, how do I help you early to get where I'm at now? And that was one of those really, really unique opportunities to do it.
So your specific market, I guess, is what, Scott Air Force Base?
Yeah, I mean, for me specifically, where we are at, yes. The company as a whole, it's going to be, active duty, guard, reserve, federal. I think about 75% of our market is military, and the other 30 is family, friends, community kind of a thing. But really, that's our niche, is active duty.
Okay.
So if somebody was here local in the St. Charles County area, could they reach out to you, or did you pass them off to whoever the rep is for this area?
No, I mean, that'd be me. I'm, over on this side of the river. I go back and forth, over to Scott Air Force Base and over on this side as well.
Okay.
So yeah, they could absolutely reach out.
And how can anyone get a hold of you?
I obviously Facebook page, LinkedIn as well. We have our First Command website. You can look me up, and I'll be a local representative here for Town and Country, and then out at Scott Air Force Base as well.
And that would be Stephen Bauer, Bauer.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
There was, transitioning from active duty to civilian life.
Yes.
So you spent a little over 10 years on active duty, and making that decision, we all three of us sitting here, we've made that decision to leave the military behind and go into civilian, and it's a pretty scary thing to do because there's a lot of security, even though it's a dangerous job, right? And you're sacrificing a lot. It's scary to say, I'm going to walk out the gate and they're going to close it behind me. They're going to keep doing what they do, and I'm not going to be a part of it. So what was your decision process like? Did you run the cost benefit analysis, or like pros cons? What did you do to make this decision?
Yeah, I mean, obviously one of those is, hey, if I stay in, right, that's guaranteed healthcare, guaranteed pension. It sets you up very, very well to do 20 years in the military. Mm-hmm. It really does. But the other part was, I had a little boy at the time who had just been born in 2022. And then another little guy just came a couple months ago. And
congratulations.
Yeah, man. Thank you. That's truly been my greatest job.
Yeah.
Right. Like I love what I did, but no job will ever replace what I have now doing that. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it, my wife and I, and we said, look, we had a lot of our family back here in the area. The next 10 years aren't guaranteed. There was a limited option of where I could go. Some careers in the military, you can go to any base. You can go anywhere.
There's only B-52s a couple places.
Exactly. Huh? And there's a very limited space that you can go. And we said, you know what? We can do this. If there's some way that I can help, I absolutely will. I can look into guard, reserve positions as well.
Sure.
And that was obviously one of those that in the back of my mind, if I needed to, I absolutely could. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, cost benefit analysis in that direction. And then also as far as the military does have a thing called Skill Bridge. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you guys have heard of that one yet.
No.
That's where, and I was a part of it. They help you transition into civilian life now. So not only, yeah, I know,
the
right?
Army does not have that.
So everybody has it now, and that's,
oh, really?
Yeah, and
well, that's good.
It's one of those where you can apply for it. Now, mind you, it's not granted all the time because it is a unit commander decision.
Okay.
And actually, Pete Hegseth and the Department of War just came out with new guidelines on it, on certain restrictions and everything else. But essentially, what it does is you put an application and you say, hey, I want to work for these Skill Bridge partners or this person, and any business can become a Skill Bridge partner. Oh, and it's a way to intern and potentially hire direct hire military.
Dude, that is so awesome.
Oh yeah.
How do we get our company involved in that?
Yeah,
look that up.
You can. There's an application on the Skill Bridge website. You can actually. I was just talking to another company about it. They're like, how do I do that? And it's because it's a fantastic opportunity.
And the approval process, as far as the service members, probably you can't be a turd. And they're going to be like, no, man, just get out.
And that can be, again, that's why it's kind of down at that unit commander discretion.
That's
it's like,
good.
It's like, hey, no. Or, there's some people where it's like, hey, if you've been like an absolute stud, mm-hmm. right, and you've been doing great for this, organization, now the only thing is you're on their books still. So the Air Force is obviously like, hey, if we're sitting at 80% manned, we don't want to lose a guy.
Yeah.
But essentially, it can give you a couple months. Like for me, there's a lot of licensing that's involved to become a financial advisor.
So you got your CFP and all that in that time?
So all the different series license, like Series 6, 63, 65. I had a 4-month Skill Bridge. So essentially, I had all those licenses done, and I was ready to be a direct hire into the Fast Start program for this job.
Holy cow.
So June 2nd, 2025, I flipped a switch, and I was a direct hire civilian.
That's amazing.
So it is a fantastic program.
Dude, the Army's like,
nice.
What? You're getting out? And then they just treat you like crap. Like you might as well be dead. That was my experience.
Then how many years did you do in the Army?
I think total it was it came out to be like 6 years active and another 7 or so in the reserves.
And when did you get out?
Why did I get out?
When?
Oh, 2011.
Yeah, see, I got out in 2004. So none of this stuff existed that you guys are talking about.
It's come a long way.
That's crazy when I think about it. 2011 was 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've been out longer than I was in. Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's quick.
Yeah. Goes by fast. And, going to see a financial planner like you, as a younger person who's starting your career out, like I'm 46, about to turn 47. I had to get life insurance this year at 46 years old. And, man, I'm paying a lot of money for this life insurance.
Yes, you are.
47, it would have been like double. But you don't think about that stuff when you're younger. You don't think about, how should I be investing in a 401k or a Roth IRA, or, how much money should I, like emergency fund cash should I have? So going to see somebody like you, man, I wish I would have done it 20 years ago.
It makes a huge difference. And that's what I tell people is like, regardless of company, regardless of where you go, what you do, sit down and talk to somebody. Mm-hmm. Because one thing is you're not a professional, right? And that's why I always say, I'm like, have you had a coach when you played football?
Right.
Yes. Does Michael Jordan have a coach? Yes. It's one of those that you may not be the expert in that field, but it's a really, really good person to add to your bench.
Yeah.
Right. And it'll just set you up for later on.
That's cool.
Well, I'll probably talk with you because I'm trying to retire early.
You and everybody else.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of people who are like, I'm going to work till the day I die.
So where can we reach you?
So First Command, if you look up Stephen Bauer, and then I don't know if there's a way to put like a link in the description or anything as far as like my professional page.
Yeah,
I can
we
put
can do
like
that.
my Facebook in there as well.
Let me open it.
I have one last B-52 question.
No, you're good.
Did you have anyone that you knew personally while you were flying that their dad or grandfather flew a B-52 also, or the same plane?
Yes. So actually, one of my good buddies, I was roommate with him. We're still very close, and his dad was an electronic warfare officer. And there's a really funny picture that we have. It's a picture of him as a child in a specific jet. I think it's the Memphis Belle, and it's his little head poking out. Cute. And then he's got a picture 20-something years later in the same jet with him in it. And
so
it's
cool.
And there's second generation, and I think there was just recently, or maybe a couple years ago, a third generation.
Wow.
So
to me, that's great history.
Oh yeah,
right there. Especially if you can get them together to be able to talk about that kind of thing. The only other one I know of, at least from the Army, my perspective, is again my best friend Dave. He was commander of the 102nd Quartermaster Company, part of the 101st Airborne. And his dad also commanded the same company when he was in Vietnam. So,
when you look at the legacy of the unit, that's a really cool thing to have in there.
Yeah.
That's neat, man. All right, so Stephen, I pulled you up. It's Stephen with a V, by the way, Steven. And I will put a link to your email address. I'll put your email address and a link to this site at First Command on the comments. So make sure you check that out, folks.
And we'll add it to our Facebook page.
And be on Facebook and YouTube. All right, gentlemen, let's rate this bourbon.
Stephen, you're our guest. Thanks for coming on and telling your story.
Yeah, thank you guys for the opportunity to. This is always a pleasure.
What'd you think of Buzzard's Roost?
I thought it was pretty good. My buddies and I, we've dabbled in some bourbon. We've done the bourbon trail and everything, and this is right up my alley. It's a little bit higher proof, but just the flavor and it's very, very good. I like the sweet. I like the vanilla. Do you guys do it like out of a 5-star kind of thing?
5 stars, yep.
5 stars, you're not allowed to do halves.
Exactly. I'd say probably 4 for me. I've tasted a lot of really, really good ones, and this is up there.
Okay.
All right, Kevin, what do you got?
I'm gonna go with 3.
Dude, you are brutal.
I am a hard grader. I know. I'm gonna go with 3 stars, but it is a drinker, so it's one that I can enjoy. I'm sure it works good in a few cocktails.
Yeah.
If you don't play around with it, but
what held it back from getting that 4 star? You think?
I wanted to get a little bit more of the smoky, oaky feel out of it than what's in it.
Okay.
It's a little lighter on that side, even though it's out there.
Do you think the sweetness of it kind of takes over that side?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I went 4 stars as well because being 105 proof, it's not harsh. You would expect it to be a little bit hotter on your palate and maybe burn a little bit more, because we've had some lower proof that were like fire in your throat.
Oh yeah.
And they did whatever they did. I think the sweetness tampons that down. But I agree with you. It does tend to hide the oaky, smoky flavors that I kind of like.
Well, technically it's a 4-year-old blend, and I don't think that they continue to age it long in their barrels. I think they more or less just finish it in their barrels, probably for a few months, enough to get to the flavor profile that they wish to have.
Well, I'd be interested in tasting more from Buzzard's Roost.
Yeah,
that's
me
for
too.
Sure.
Yeah.
$69, $65 to $69 is what I've been seeing is kind of normal. I would say that's a good price. If you can catch it on sale like I did, buy a couple bottles. That's it, folks. Make sure you check us out. We're on Spotify that you're listening right now, the Headspace and Tasting Podcast. Rate, share, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff, please. On YouTube, Facebook, you can email us at showmemk@gmail.com. That's Mike Kilo, showmemk. Make sure you get in touch with Stephen Bauer at First Command, Bauer, and he'll get you set up to be rich one day.
There you go. Or at least financially stable.
Exactly.
Stable.
Financial security.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to let Stephen look at my budget here, and he's going to tell me how stupid I am. All right. Thank you, folks.
Peace out.